if we look today, right?
Yeah.
It looks great. Kev, you just crossed a milli.
Oh my gosh,
on
congrats.
the gram. Your YouTube is crazy. Your
Yes.
Facebook is crazy.
We were listening to it like driving in the car the other day. It's like,
yeah, man.
It's so good.
Melissa's got 7 shows.
Yes.
Kevin's got 18 shows. And y'all have your own studio. And man, it looks like
their parents, they're a mom and a dad as well. So yeah.
And you guys are in Hollywood, but you've been building this thing without Hollywood.
Yeah.
You've been doing this independently on your own. It looks great. But I want to go back. I want to go back to the beginning because you guys had a starting point. I don't want everybody just to see where you're at right now and try to catch up to you overnight. But this thing was a journey. I want you to go back. I want you to go back to where this came from. Where did Hollywood ambitions come from? Where did On Stage come from? Were you guys always entrepreneurial? Was this something that sparked later on in life? Take us back to the beginning of how this whole thing started.
So I'll start and then Kev will take us home to Hollywood. When Kevin and I, we met when we were 16 years old. We were in 11th grade. My dad bought me a car. Kev was still on a bike. I was working at KFC. Kev was working at Burger King. I would drive my car at like 10 o'clock at night when Burger King closed to go pick him up, drop him off, and go home. My mom was like, why are you doing all this for this little boy? He ain't got no car. Like, it was a whole deal, okay? And we continued to date through, high school, through college. We eventually got married. And what happened was that my view of our life was we were going to work a 9-to-5. We were going to collect a real good check. We was going to have these kids enclosed in a white picket fence in this beautiful home where I was going to bake these apple pies and there was going to be steam and we was going to live the white suburbia life and I was going to be happy henceforth and forevermore. And then what had happened was I met this man and all my ambitions went out the window because he was doing, and he'd always had done, to be fair, he'd always done not stand up, but he had done plays. He had done some form of stand up, like even in our church and that kind of thing. And it was just like, while it may have been embedded in him and kind of festering that one day I'm going to like live out my dreams to go to Hollywood, it was never spoken aloud to me until one day it was. And it was like, but wait, my white picket fence.
How you think we're going to get the white picket fence if we out here balling? Because them fences cost a lot. They cost $7,000.
We can climb the corporate ladder though. So Isaiah made a video that went viral Isaiah's our oldest son, made a video on the internet that went viral. And that led into a role in the Little Rascals. And Kev and Isaiah moved out to LA for a few months, 2 or 3 months. And Kev came back and was like, so listen.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't stay here. So I know we're in LA.
I actually told you that before we even left. I started texting her on set like, I'm not going to be able to do that anymore, but we'll talk more later.
We were both working at, I fast forward a lot of the story, but we were both working at Boeing at the time, making more money than we had ever made. We wasn't making a whole heck of a bunch of money, but for where we were at life,
it was more. We
crossed into Bill Gates.
We crossed into 6-figure territory together, and we were like, well, it's over for you poor folks. Melissa and I have now made it. Kids in private school, iPads on the desk, 8 kids to the classroom. We both work at Boeing. See ya. You know what I mean? Like, that was it for us.
We thought we had made
for a minute.
It. And so I was happy. Like, listen, the kids are doing stuff on the little internet thing, got a little money on the side. We are working these real good jobs with good benefits. We got a house. Like, we are out here. We have made it. And Kev came back from that set and was like, so what I want you to do is quit this job, because I'm going to quit this job. And we're going to leave the state in which we have friends and a support system and a house and a payment plan and a paycheck. We're going to leave all of that and move to LA on what I like to call a dream and a prayer. Because that's literally all we had. And so that brought us to Los Angeles in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And how long ago was that again?
7 years.
Wow. I don't know how. I did not know that story.
Yeah. And the thing is, even prior to meeting Melissa, I had an entrepreneur heart, even as a kid. When I was in middle school, I had a little lawnmower business. When I was on base, when on the military base, if your grass wasn't cut by a certain day, like they would do inspections twice a week, if it wasn't cut, you would get fined. So I would cut grass all the time, but especially the day before inspection, I'd be like, hey man, the fine's $25, the cut's $10. I could be done in 10 minutes. So I had that business. I had a business where I sold candy. I bought candy at the commissary for 33 cents, went and sold it for $1. So I always had a hustle. It was just once, stand up and the play things happened more, and I was able to like parlay the money I'd saved from stand up into a tour. Then it was like, okay, and the combination of Melissa being laid off, right? Because I don't think Melissa would have ever quit her job. She said she was going to quit. She went part-time. And then she was like, actually, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to be part-time. And then she got laid off. And then it was like, okay, maybe I actually will join you fully in entrepreneurship. But it was definitely, our money story is very different. Melissa viewed money as like her dad was in the military. He was a saver. She watched him, pay the bills, balance his checkbook. He set the bills out on the table. He paid them, you know what I'm saying? He saved a lot of money from them. She was like, this is what a man does. This is how life lives. My mom was an entrepreneur. She had businesses. She had flyers. So I was like, and my dad was in the military, but I was not looking at him. I was looking at my mom like, yeah, get money. Get money. You know what I'm saying? So that just grew and grew and grew until, she was able to come off her job and I had quit my job. And then we started to work together in the business, which meant I had to start making room for her in the business. At first, I was just doing it all alone, right? And then making room for her in that part of my life presented its own challenges and victories.
Wow, I want to talk about that, making room for her.
That was a whole sermon point right there.
Exactly.
I made room.
Yes.
What happened was KevOnStage was, so if you are a fan from a long time, KevOnStage came from the Playmakers were making our own church videos. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there's also stuff that I want to talk about that's not always about church. So I'm going to make my own YouTube page. And it was smaller than the Playmakers page for years, which was fine with me because my goal wasn't to be bigger than the Playmakers. It was just to have my own voice. So I kind of had always built that by myself. And then when we toured, we did the Love Hour. Then it was like, okay, now how do I incorporate Melissa? Because in order for me to get from nothing to where I was, it was fine to do it alone. But to get from here to the next part of, the next plateau, I'm going to have to make room for her in this part of our business. Otherwise, it's going to harm my business and our marriage. So that was probably, phase 2 of the journey that we're currently on. We're probably a little further in phase 2.
Talk about that, Melissa. How did that feel? Again, you were laid off and now you're full-fledged in the business. And you've also started your own thing. I think that's how the Love Hour was birthed, right?
It sounds like it was a real process for you.
So I would definitely say it was a process, a long process, but it was twofold. The first process was the fact that I didn't leave my job. My job closed down and it forced me out. Mm-hmm. They literally closed down and moved to Ohio. And unless I was moving to Ohio, I no longer had an option to go to work. So it wasn't like by choice that like, okay, I'm ready to leave my job and go work with my husband and build this empire. It was like, girl, we close it in 7 months. So get ready. And I as much as I thought I was ready, I wasn't ready. I just wasn't. I'll say that, a lot of meaning in going to work, a lot of meaning in clocking in, doing a good job. I'm very like, give me my job description and I will nail it. Like that's just how I work. And the entrepreneurial world Job description where? Just do all the things. Well, what are all the things? Because I don't even know what that means yet. Like I didn't know. We were married, but Kevin, the KevOnStage, that kind of thing. I've always actually said this. We had our roles. Kevin's the dreamer. Melissa's the stable one. She's the one. We skipped over this, but Kev was fired for a little while, got fired, and he wasn't working a job for a little while. Then he started working for the church. So he didn't always have steady income. So that's fine. Kevin, you go do those things. Melissa's the one that will ensure we have health insurance and vision and dental, and we have a paycheck every 2 weeks. And those were our roles. And all of a sudden, I'm in a position where I no longer have a job. Okay, so now what? You know, it was just, so part of the process was that. And then the second part was what Kevin was just talking about was, well, how do I fit into this world? Kevin's been KevOnStage and kind of operating autonomously, so to speak, for as long as this has been going on. You know, you have input, I support, I show up to the event, but I'm not in the inner workings of this business because I was the stable one. So now I have to figure out kind of where I fit. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle for us. And it was a struggle for me in trying to create this new identity and even this new dynamic in our relationship where and I still struggle, if I'm being honest, but where I want to have input and trying to figure out, well, is my input valid? Is it valued? Is it, you know, you kind of have all of these questions, and he's so used to make a decision and move on. And I'm like, okay, but like, what if I have something to say? So, you know, that whole kind of, again, just kind of restructuring was definitely a process. That's why we say we shall overcome, because we're still only
someday
2 years into the, I think I will officially have come off my job. It'll be 2 years this year. Or was it in 17?
No, it was 18, but okay. 18 you worked and toured. 19 was the first full year of
so, yeah.
not working.
So yeah, it's still been and still is. And so what ended up happening, I guess, to kind of just tie into Love Hour, is we started the podcast, and I decided to do a conference, and it gave me that sense of meaning that I got when I went to work. The sense of, you know, I need something to do every day. I need something that I can say, I've accomplished something. I can check something off my box because I know what I needed to do and I did it. That sense of accomplishment, I just didn't have. I've never dreamt of being a stay-at-home mom. I never dreamt of being, and that's no shade, no disrespect to, you know, to people out there. That's what they want to do. It was just never my goal, never my intent. So I was like, I have to do something. Otherwise, I'm gonna fill out somebody's job application. Because I can't just be at home.
And low key, she kept her work clothes for like another year and a half after she quit. Like, I feel like maybe when we just moved, right?
No. I let go of them before then, but I did keep them for probably a good year because we were working the part-time thing. It was probably about a year because it was like the end of the year that like I officially was laid off. And then a little bit into that first year, I held on to them because I didn't know if this was something I was really going to be able to sustain, if we were going to be able to sustain working together. And it really wasn't. I listened to a podcast, and the lady was actually talking about getting rid of things in order to make room for what in your life is taking up space and not allowing you to create space for the newness that's in your life, the right now that's in your life. She was talking about something else, but child, in my mind, it was like, it's my closet. I have these work clothes that I'm holding on to that are for this old life, and I won't be able to make room for this new life until I get rid of them. And so for whatever reason, that spoke to me in that way. And that's when I, you know, purged my closet.